husband, is he the biggest Captain Sava 304 ever though? Because let me find the video about you know the husband or about some of the things alleged to have happened with Diddy because I don't know how you can even listen to this stuff though. I don't know why he would want to be there on the court case though. So we have this where this is from the Shade Room, and Cassie reveals how she recovered from Freakoff's antibacterial didn't work anymore. Diddy or Cassie opened up about how she recovered from frequent Freakoffs, which previously revealed could have lasted for days. She testified that she often suffered from UTIs, mouth sores, and needed opioids and IVs to fluids to recover. This is insane. Like, and I looked at the comments. So before we tackle this, I looked at the comments and all this. And again, people were just going off of the emotional reaction. And I get Diddy is, I'm not saying Diddy is innocent by any means. Definitely got some scumbag and did some terrible things to people around him. But I don't know if I want to still come out and say, like, all the stuff we can hear about Cassie. Again, you got to wait till all the information comes out before people start putting on their capes for Cassie, though. So it's very interesting to see these people just have this very, this conversation that's just really defending Cassie, but she's no saint. And but who probably thought he was the saint was her husband. He probably thought he was getting her husband's, I think he's white, but he probably thought he was getting a nice piece of chocolate. And Cassie was like, hey,
Yeah.
there's just so much to go here. So let me hand the mic off to you, MC.
And frankly, TR, you gave the PG-13 version of some of the things that were said. There was some
urinated.
Yeah, I mean there was that, and she talked about UTIs and things like that. Look, her husband is better than me because I've always said that when it comes to these Hollywood adjacent chicks, these singers, these people that want to be famous and always hanging around, I just assume that they've all been ran through. Now, whether with consent or not is a different conversation, but
Sure.
this is what you're signing up for when you are going after these types of women, and you need to be comfortable with that. And if you are comfortable with that, you might have some beta tendencies. I'm not even gonna lie, like I don't see it, but good for him. I mean,
Hey.
you don't want to hear. Why would you want to be with somebody you can't even stomach to hear their past? But that's a part of who they are. That's what made them who they are. But you don't even want to hear about it. Yikes!
I'm gonna tell you right now. This is the thing that people don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation on, though. So Cassie, look, that is supposed to be your queen. That is supposed to be your wife. That is the mother of your 3 kids. Here's the thing: I forgot the dude that she married was actually hired by Diddy. So instead of just doing your job, instead of just being a professional, you start fucking to help. You start fucking your client. This is I know that's kind of cliche to hear that about the whatchamacall guard. Your trainer is piping you down. But here's the thing. So either he knew about some of the things that Diddy did, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm still interested. I still want to go at it," or she lied about it. I don't know which one makes him look. I don't know which one makes who look better in this situation though, because even she told a little bit about it, you still want to get involved with her? Like, why would you do that? And then not to mention this, and real quick on this one, you have to hear everything, every defiling act that occurred. You had to hear the body or the escort say, "Hey, she asked me to R. Kelly in her mouth. She asked me to do those disgusting things to her." So as much as you want to paint Diddy as the bad guy, your wife, your queen, the mother of your kids asked to do all those, was involved with some of those things, and you got a front row seat to hear it. So regardless how this plays out, you're still going to be looking like the fool. You're still going to be the guy that, hey, I got the woman that I wanted. Well, everybody sounds like a lot of people got the woman that you wanted.
Another thing that wasn't mentioned was Cassie was the one who hired the male escorts too. It
Oh yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
just women.
yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right with your assessment. Either he knew about it or she lied about it. And I suspect that he knew because one of the times where she claimed that Diddy assaulted her, she was married to him. So she was with the dude when it happened.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I just heard about that recently, actually. Yeah. So what we're talking about there is allegedly he raped her,
yeah,
and while she was with her husband,
right.
or well, they were married. I think they were married, or they were dating or something going on. So you when did you tell your husband what happened? Because I got more questions because if you didn't go to the police when it happened, but you went to the you didn't she still never went to the police actually. So as her husband or the guy that's dating her, you still saw it through. You said, "Hey, this is still what I want to do." Like that just doesn't make sense to me. So he's got to be the biggest simp, and he's got to be like someone that no man should aspire to be. This is not the ideal situation. You are not winning in this situation though, because either she lied to you or you just ignored all the red flags. Because I can tell you, if one of my friends said, hey, this is who I'm thinking about. I'd be like, and this is what she's been through. I'd be like, no, don't do it. That's just bad news. That's just extra baggage. And look at it's coming to fruition now though, because even though they stopped, I forget when they stopped dating because she's all married and everything. But whenever that was, probably at least 5 years, you still have to deal with the baggage from her ex. You still dealing with her ex. It's almost like y'all married together. And then now the world knows that Cassie was involved with all this stuff though. Has she just taken the money? People would have forgot about this. People would have been like, hey, something weird happened, but he would have been in a limelight. I didn't know what that guy looked like until they started doing the recaps.
So I guess you kind of partially answered the question I was about to ask TR, but as a man, if you're dealing with the woman and she discloses to you that she has a past like this, the question is, let's say everything's cool now, but she discloses this to you. Are you going to stick around? And if you don't stick around, are you a jerk for not sticking around?
No man is a jerk for having to stick around with any of this nonsense. Whether it's a step situation, whether it's a college sweetheart, whatever the case is, your wife is checking out, wilding out. Look, the one thing that came out in this case, this trial, is that she said she was still in love with Diddy. Man, that would just crush me. That would just crush me. Hear your wife talking about how she went through all of the craziness with Diddy. I Man, I can't even have a long line like that. I messed up with some chick. She's like, "Hey, we're done." Like,
Yeah.
you don't pay attention to me. I walk it out. Apparently, with Diddy though, you gotta tell me either. I mean, we know Diddy wasn't clapping her cheeks, at least not regularly. So it wasn't the sex. So what was it? Oh, it probably was those multiple properties and the allowance that she was getting every month. So yeah, you you got to know, men in general have to know, like, this is a very bad deal, and if they decide that they still want to see it through, then you're gonna get these jokes 1000%. And then they need to start putting his face out there too. He needs to start having a front row seat, like not just in the courts but on the social media though, because this is not who you want to look. Nobody, Cassie's situation is just messed up, and that's probably one of the rarest things that'll probably come up with most women. But when it comes to, like, dealing with the stuff, like, if know beforehand, you just can't mess with it. You just got to be like, hey, you know what? If, in a different timeline, we're probably gonna be together, but not this one.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, too crazy for me, for most men. But apparently, men are down bad. Men will sign up for stuff like this.
Yep, absolutely they will. And not only will you get the jokes, you kind of got to deal with the traumas that come from stuff like
Oh,
this. There's probably some unresolved conflicts that haven't been dealt with yet.
yeah.
Going back to something you said earlier, because I was looking at the timelines of all the testimonies and stuff. So when the graping happened, she said she was with who is now her husband, but she also said when the grape happened, it was because she went and met with Diddy because they were having a closure conversation and were breaking up.
Closure
So
conversation. Like,
it sounds like she was juggling both of these dudes at the same time. Because if
oh
you're
yeah,
breaking up, that means that at least in his head they're still together. Not to mention she was still working for him, and I believe he was too. So they both kind of stuck around, knowing that he was this type of way, he was doing all of these things. And I mean, am I wrong for saying I can challenge their judgment based on that assessment? Like some people will say I am wrong for calling that out.
no, you're not. You're not even close to being wrong. This guy, he look. The one thing that's really not being highlighted here is how much of a scumbag he was for. I don't understand why he's not getting dragged for sleeping with his client though, because how many times have we heard like if you're a lawyer, you're going to get disbarred. If you are a doctor sleeping with your client, I mean, I don't know if you'll get lose your license, but it's definitely frowned upon. So this is what this motherfucker looks like. He wanted to be front row. He wanted to get a get his black queen. All right, here you go. Now we about to get these jokes on you because you wanted to act like you were doing the right thing, but all you were doing is sleeping with your client and came back and bit you in the ass. This is the guy that thinks he got it for free. And then we find out, like, I mean, he's probably, if he knew some of it, he's probably okay knowing if he was probably okay with it being in secrecy or just being private. Now we all know. So you can't tell me if he was okay with it being secret, is he okay with it now? Because maybe he's finding out some of this stuff though, but how can you be okay with that? How can you look at that woman and knowing that she was a human toilet? How? I don't get it.
You know,
And
and I think this is the grand hustle too, because when we try to ask questions about, well, not we, because I'm out the game, single men who try to ask questions about body counts, right? They'll try to shame them for asking those questions. But this, and now we're just talking about from the husband's perspective, this becomes even more important now. Because
yeah,
now you start diving into her past and seeing all these interactions, she got all these soul ties with all these other men and possibly some other women too. And
yeah,
that's a lot for most average people to handle. I mean, somehow he deals with it. I guess he just pretends like it never happened. That's at least that's what I think. Because when he heard her testify about her past, he couldn't take it and got up and walked out. So that tells
yeah.
me they've never had an extensive conversation about what she did.
Yeah, and that's a lot to, process the same day while you're, in the center of media attention. And everybody's trying to like be nice to him like he's a sympathetic hero. He's not a hero. Again, he slept with his client. He was hired to work he was hired to be her fitness trainer. And so sleeping with your client, yeah, you got a wife out of it. The problem is your wife has been around with everybody else. So for a lot of people, well, really for men, they're gonna have to start asking these questions, and they're gonna have to like really look at push the conversation though, because maybe let's say Cassie lied about this and you find out that her body count is, way higher or whatever it is, you got to be able to walk away. You got to be ready to walk away. And if there's a kid involved, you got some hard decisions to make though, because it's one thing if it's between you two, but now the world knows about it. How can you still like think this is a good thing? This is going to be out there on the internet. And I'm surprised that she agreed to be a witness for the prosecuting team though, because you've already got the money. She already won. I just don't know why she did this. She got the generational change money, and she got to keep her husband out of it, and got to keep her kids out of it. And now that she wants to really put Diddy behind bars, I just think it's overkill. I think it's she could have avoided some of this stuff though. She could have been like, look, I'm glad to, I don't want to be involved anymore. This is too much pressure, which I understand why some people don't want to go through this stuff like this because you got to relive it. But apparently, that's not the case here.
Yeah, and I am 100% convinced that she was comfortable taking that settlement and just fading away. I think when everybody came for Diddy, and they presented the like, hey, we're coming after you with criminal charges. That wasn't her doing. I think she was prepared to take that settlement and go sit down somewhere and disappear. But they must have given her some type of offer or coaxed her some way to step back into the light and completely air out her sexual history with this dude.
Well,
because
you
she's
know,
embarrassing herself and her husband too.
the
So it's
family.
not just about the family too. I mean, her kids are young, but they're going to hear about this at some point.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to use it against her. And don't let them go into sports because if you play it, I hate to say this, but some athletes will do whatever it takes to get inside your head and throw you off your game in a competitive atmosphere. So in a heated moment, somebody might say something crazy about your mom, and you know how that goes in the black community
Mm,
where somebody talk crazy about your mama. So
yeah.
yeah, man, this is crazy.
I'm going to tell you right now when it comes to how how they're handling this, how they're they thought I can't believe they thought this was the best option though, because now that you brought that up, it's something I just thought of. Cassie shouldn't be your strongest witness. Cassie should be like if she's your biggest chip out the gate, then that tells me you may not have a strong case because this has nothing to do with the trafficking. Well, indirectly, they're, they're trying to connect the trafficking to Diddy. That was at his request, and she was just a willing, or she was a victim in all this. Which I don't know how they're going to do that. It seems like it's more work to do it that way. But either, no matter the case, and maybe they put leverage on her. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they said either he goes down for the charges or you go down for the charges. Like this is our justice system at work. The justice isn't about getting justice. It's about making a name for yourself. That's why we have these prosecutors. Like any, it's going to be hard for me to vote for anybody that's a prosecutor that's running for a political office, though, because when it comes to like how did you make your, how did you make your convictions? A lot of times they just go after certain types of people, and that's how they get their conviction rates up. Talking about being tough on crime when they're really not tough on crime. They just went to the easiest path, though. So if they are trying to get like some RICO charges and whatever you call it, and trafficking charges, maybe they leverage her to do that though, because that actually makes more sense why she has a lawyer present and also talking for her though, because she's going to end up like they probably told her like if you don't go on the stand, we're going to go after you. Even with they must have found a way to get around the NDA too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the trafficking thing, in by definition, trafficking is just the illegal movement or exploitation of people or goods, right? I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure, and I'm this is just me being devil's advocate. I'm not saying I'm not condoning, I'm not taking sides, none of that. But Diddy could theoretically come back and pull evidence, maybe text messages or emails, some type of group chats that all of these people were operating with consent.
Yeah.
There's still that chance. I mean, it's basically the I call it the Shay Shay strategy at this point because that was the first thing he did was he pulled the text, and I'm just wondering like that's probably Diddy's best shot at a defense here. But outside of that, like I said earlier, he snitched on himself. He's cooked. The question
Yeah.
is, how cooked is he going to be? Is he going to be overdone, or is this a little bit burnt? Either way, he's going to be cooked.
Yeah.
And he got a guest list. So I don't
Yeah.
know, man. He might have an accident too. Epstein
Epstein himself.
allegedly. Yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be crazy to see.
So, yeah, I think that's as much as we're gonna, discuss on this one. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be, curious to see how things play out, and then also hear how the defense goes after her because I want to hear their case. So, stay tuned to that, folks.
Yeah, indeed.
All right.